are invited to a murder. A stranger lies dead in Arlington Grange. There are 6 suspects, but which one is the killer? Could it be Mrs. Peacock, lady of the manor and beautiful society hostess? Perhaps Colonel Mustard, military hero and intimate family friend? Is Reverend Green a saint or sinner? Is it Professor Plum, a man with a degree of suspicion? Miss Scarlet, Mrs. Peacock's glamorous stepdaughter? Or Mrs. White, loyal housekeeper and devoted confidant?
And here is your host for Cluedo, Richard Madeley.
Thank you. Hello and welcome to Cluedo. A murder has been committed at Arlington Grange, and over the next half hour you can examine the evidence and solve the case at home. And leading the inquiry here in the studio are celebrity detectives from Treasure Hunt, Annabelle Croft, and sports presenter Dickie Davis. And challenging them we have TV AM's Lorraine Kelly and newsreader Martin Lewis. And happy sleeping to you all. All right, the task for our studio detectives, and of course for you at home, is to work out who committed the murder, with which weapon and in which room. Later on, we'll also be giving you the chance to win a thrilling murder mystery weekend in our special competition. So lots of incentive for you to concentrate on all of tonight's evidence. And to help you on your way, I can reveal some important initial clues. We do know that the killer used one of 6 weapons. Was it the candlestick, the gun, the dagger, the statuette, the cross and chain, or was it the decanter? I can also reveal that the victim was killed in one of these 6 rooms. Was it the dining room, the drawing room, the billiard room, the library, the kitchen, or was it in the study? Well, let's examine now the crucial evidence, the events that lead up to the murder. Mrs. White believes that the house is haunted, and the others think that it's time to exorcise the Arlington ghost.
Lunch.
Oh, my God.
I am here. I am
Can you hear it, Reverend?
Hear me, Satan, and be banished. In the name of all that's good and holy, Blanche White rejects you and all your works. Yes. Well, that seems to do the job well.
Oh, I don't know, Reverend. I still feel something.
Well, you may need a top-up session a day or 2.
Trust the vicar, Mrs. White. Don't you feel an aura of peace and serenity?
Well, so much for serenity.
At this hour, who can you be expecting?
Creatures of the night, I have arrived.
Good Lord, who is it?
Miss Terry, I presume. Mrs. White? Blanche, dear. Look, don't be alarmed, but I want you to meet Miss Terry. Professor Plum has heard that she has the most exceptional gift.
Psychic negotiation. She contacts the spirit who's causing all the problems and talks it out.
Great heavens, it's her. Mrs. Peacock, may I have a word?
Excuse me.
This woman is notorious. She's the one that wrote this lurid bestseller, The 10 Most Haunted Houses.
So?
So she'll conduct a seance, and everything that comes out will be splashed all over the tabloids. She's publicity mad.
Well, of course, I don't want publicity. But I feel I owe it to Mrs. White. The poor woman is beside herself. And she's not doing her work.
And that's why I'm here. I represent the church.
Professor Plum is confident. Let's give her a chance.
Don't you trust me, Mrs. Peacock? Well then, I won't be held responsible for the mayhem that's to come.
be locked away, but since this business with the voices started... I'm not taking any chances, Mrs. Peacock.
Oh, calm yourself.
Do we really have to go through with this?
The candles are sufficient.
Spirits of the ether, voices in the night, speak unto me, your friend and protector. I am trying to help our dear friend, Mrs. White. But there are so many strange feelings coming through. I sense duplicity in this room. I see a secret liaison. There's more. I see old ladies being duped and swindled of their money.
This is all rubbish!
There's somebody else coming through, a crucial messenger. Speak to me. Speak.
Be calm. Miss Terry, are you all right?
Reverend, see to Mrs. White.
We must reconvene. 20 minutes. Contact is made. A terrible secret will be revealed.
See the state that woman's got Mrs. White into? She's got to go.
She's on to something. Did you feel the room go cold?
Where's Vivian?
Mustard took her into the billiards room.
Calm down. All she said was liaison.
For God's sake, Mike, I don't know how, but that medium knows about us. And the way she's carrying on, Elizabeth is going to find out.
So?
Mike, Miss Terry has to be stopped. If you don't do something...
I'm getting out of here.
Look, Breen, this woman is obviously a charlatan. Now, it's your job to expose her.
Oh, I don't know. I'm beginning to wonder.
Now, you listen to me. It's your job to save Mrs. White's soul. Now, you know what your Bible says about deliver us from evil. Well, you get in there and deliver us from this woman of evil.
Where is my talisman, the dagger?
I put it on the table.
Could we just get on with this, please?
I am trying to make contact for Blanche White. But no, this message isn't for you, Blanche. It's a young man. A gifted student.
I am here. I can see my tormentor. Yes, you, Plum, you. You stole my work and drove me to suicide.
It's a lie. It's all lies.
And here is Jack Peacock. He wants to warn of a secret affair.
I've had enough of this.
So have I.
You won't get away with this slander, woman.
I knew it would come to this. She's nothing but a scandal monger.
Fine words from a crook. I will expose you. Mrs. Peacock, there's so much coming through. There's a book to be written about this house. You and I could share the royalties. And now I must find somewhere to meditate. I think we have a devastating night ahead of us.
I want her out of here.
I think you might be too late.
It's all your damn fault. Can you imagine the scandal that this could cause? A disgrace to us all.
It's not true. I can prove it.
I'm not interested in your proving it. I just want you to stop this dreadful woman.
I intend to.
Good. Because if you don't, I will.
Study?
No, the kitchen.
I had it too, the kitchen.
Has anyone seen Mrs. White? No.
She's dead.
What?
The medium, Miss Terry. Someone killed her.
Oh, no.
So, Miss Terry has joined the spirit world. But who killed her? Only 2 people in the studio know that. I'm one of them, and the other, of course, is the killer, who was one of these 6 suspects. Did Colonel Mustard have a motive to murder the victim? Did the spectre of a scandal make Mrs. Peacock the killer? Did Miss Scarlet's secret make her silence the psychic? She was unhinged, but was Mrs. White mad enough to murder? Was the Reverend Green guilty of killing the clairvoyant? Or did a ghost from the past drive Professor Plum to a deadly deed? So there they are, our 6 suspects, 6 possible murder weapons and 6 possible rooms. So, studio detectives, based on the evidence that you've heard so far, what's your gut feeling about this case? We'll go to Annabelle and Dickie first.
Well, our gut feeling might seem obvious, but we think that the murder was committed in the kitchen, the weapon was the gun, and Mrs. White did the dirty deed.
Mrs. White? Well, let's move across now to the other 2, Lorraine and Martin.
Well, we're deducing, just from the odd look and the occasional expression that flitted across a certain person's face, we think that the room was the dining room, we think the weapon was the candlestick, and the murderer was Mrs. Peacock.
Mrs. Peacock. Very direct accusation, and again, a bit of a mixed reaction this time from the gallery. Well, we did ask them for their intuitive feelings, and of course, instincts can sometimes play you wrong. They can sometimes be absolutely right, but we'll find out, because we move on to round 1. This is where our studio sleuths can cross-examine the suspects. But before they begin, just one more vital piece of information. Only the murderer can lie. All the others have to tell the truth. Remember that. So, Annabelle, Dickie, off you go with your first cross-examination question.
Okay, I'd like to ask Professor Plum a question. Is it true that this student committed suicide because you stole his work?
Oh, no. His name was Blair. He was very romantic and very neurotic and thought he was excessively plain, and he was nearly right. And always wanted, during his whole 3 years when he was up at university, to be a martyr. No. There's no truth in what he said.
Okay, another question, please.
Miss Scarlett, perhaps if I could ask you, between rushing out of the second séance, we've seen you doing that, and coming down the stairs, did you meet anyone?
Oh, I didn't meet anyone, no.
Saw nobody. All right, thank you. Simple answer.
I'd like to put a question to Mrs. Peacock. In both the séances, Miss Terry talked about duplicity and swindling. She also said there was enough material there to write a book and that you should also share the royalties with her. Why did you not react to that?
Oh, I think I did react. I reacted with coldness to this woman. But I think it was the least of my problems, frankly, that she was about to write anything about Arlington Grange. That really was beside the point. I just realized that perhaps Reverend Green, who had told me all along about this despicable woman, that he was probably right.
Martin, you've got another question now.
I'd like to put a question to Mrs. White.
Oh.
Mrs. White, you told Mrs. Peacock that you had always carried a gun since, I think you said, the voices started to happen.
Voices?
Was the gun in your possession right through the evening?
It's really hard for me to think, you see. I haven't really been sleeping very well. Yeah, I kept the gun with me all evening, definitely.
And what about the gunshot then?
Oh, well, I thought I heard something tapping at the window. I fired. I shot the Argo.
All right, one more, please.
Right, our next question is to Reverend Green. Colonel Mustard ordered you to do your duty and deliver us from this woman of evil. What do you think he inferred by that?
I think it was purely to get rid of the woman spiritually. I mean, there's no connection physically, no getting rid of them that way. I think it was just me, as a man of the cloth, to actually get rid of her mentally.
All right, Lorraine, would you like to make a cross-examination?
Colonel Mustard, we know that you are a bit of a cad. You didn't seem unduly upset by events, and can we assume then that your instructions had been carried out?
Well, no, I mean, Reverend Green's a man of the cloth. He's our spiritual leader at Arlington Grange, and naturally I wanted him to assert himself over this Miss Terry. I certainly didn't instruct him to murder her, if that's what you're inferring.
Okay, thank you very much indeed. That's enough questions for now. So, we've now heard from each of our 6 suspects, and now the studio detectives have got to make a deduction. Now, of course, the best result for them at this stage would be a completely correct one, but the next best result would be an entirely incorrect deduction, because that will eliminate a room, a weapon, and a suspect from our inquiries here tonight. All right, first of all, can we go to Annabelle and Dickie?
We have said that the murder was committed in the study with a cross and chain, and the murderer is the Reverend Green.
Reverend Green. And A lot of agreement for that particular theory. Annabelle, why do you think that?
Well, I think we remember that the psychic, when she left the séance, she said, I'm going to go and meditate now.
Yes, she
and
did.
we have ruled out certain rooms, and we can only assume she went to the study. And we weren't very impressed with Reverend Green's answer.
All right, Lorraine and Martin, can I have your deduction, please?
We've concluded second time around that the room was the kitchen, that the weapon was the gun, which never left Mrs. White's possession, and that the murderer, therefore, was Mrs. White, who also significantly didn't appear at the end after the body was discovered.
You've given us your reasons, so I'll go back to Annabelle and Dickie. Let's refresh our memories. You said the murder was committed in the study, and the weapon was the cross and chain, and therefore it was the Reverend Green. Well, I can tell you, none of those three deductions are correct. Lorraine and Martin, you said the murder was committed in the kitchen, with the gun, and that Mrs. White was the killer. Well, I can tell you that you also have got none of those deductions correct. None at all. Very interesting at this stage. So we definitely now can eliminate the study and the kitchen as places where the murder happened. We can eliminate the cross and chain and the gun. And of course, the Reverend Green and Mrs. White are completely innocent. You're absolutely cleared. I congratulate you on that. But there we have to leave our investigation just for a couple of seconds, but we will be back to solve the mystery of Miss Terry's murder. Join us again after the break. Welcome back to part 2 of Cluedo. We're trying to find out who killed the medium, Miss Terry, with which weapon and in which room at Arlington Grange. Now, if you're trying to solve the case at home, here's a reminder of what we've discovered so far. We have definitely eliminated the study and the kitchen. We've eliminated the cross and chain and the gun as weapons, and the Reverend Green and Mrs. White are now completely cleared from our inquiries. And we still have 4 possible rooms, 4 possible weapons, and 4 remaining suspects. Now, before our studio detectives continue to question the suspects and the 2 witnesses, we can examine some important new evidence. And first, we join Colonel Mustard and the Reverend Green in the study.
Will you get in there and deliver us from this woman of evil?
Lunch. I'll be defunct if this gets out. Don't you comprehend that?
Yes, I do.
Earn a fortune, you said. Just a couple of these lying around on bookshelves, and then I do the exorcism. Foolproof, you said.
Well, I wasn't reckoning on that circus inside.
Well, I've had enough of her. There. Come along, Mrs. White.
Any damning evidence there? Let's find out. Our studio sleuths will now put this very fresh evidence to use. In round 2, they can cross-examine any suspect or witness that they want, and each question and answer has to be followed straight away by a deduction. So we'll start off, please, with Annabelle and Dickie.
Well, we'd like to ask Colonel Mustard a question. In fact, Lorraine suggested you were a cad, Colonel Mustard. I think you're an absolute rogue. But what I'm most interested in is why did you stay behind in the library when everybody had left?
Well, as you so rightly say, I was now found out, and the game was up on the scam, so I decided to remove the technical equipment that I'd planted there.
He's admitting to the scam, and he's saying that that's really why he was there. So would you like to make a deduction, please?
Well, we think it's Colonel Mustard with the dagger in the dining room.
Mixed reaction again. Okay, so you're saying the murder was committed in the dining room, with the dagger, and you're accusing Colonel Mustard. 2 out of 3 deductions correct. Well done, you moved very close towards it. 2 out of 3. And let's move across now to Lorraine and Martin.
My question is actually to the Reverend Green. Was Mrs. Peacock involved in the plot that you and Colonel Mustard concocted to fake the séance?
Oh, no. My darling benefactor, Elizabeth Peacock, had nothing at all to do with the scam.
All right, that's your answer, Reverend Green, and if you've cleared Mrs. Peacock of any implication in the scam, but let's have a deduction now, please, on the killing.
Well, by a process of elimination and a sheer stab in the dark, frankly, we think it was in the dining room with the dagger, and we think that Mrs. Peacock committed the dirty deed.
Peacock? I have to say that seems to be a popular choice. All right, why?
We think that Mrs. Peacock would do anything to avoid scandal, don't we? We think that she would She wouldn't want any sort of scandal to be attached to her name. And the dagger belonged to Miss Terry, so that might be a...
And we know that the dagger had gone missing. In fact, it was Professor Plum who indicated that the dagger had been moved away.
Let's go over this deduction again. You're saying the murder was committed in the dining room with the dagger, and you're accusing Mrs. Peacock. Well, at this moment of tension in the inquiry, I can tell you you've got 1 out of 3 deductions correct. But remember, on their last deduction, Annabelle and Dickie got 2 out of 3 right, and I wonder if you can draw any conclusions from that. Let's have another question.
Right, we'd like to ask Professor Plum.
Yes.
We want to establish, did you really leave the dagger on the card table?
Yes, I remember it quite clearly because it was a carving of a woman with one eye and nostrils like a rocking horse, and it reminded me of my Auntie Wynne. So I'm certain about that.
So let's see what you deduced from that. Your deduction, please.
Right, we now think it's the billiard room with the dagger and Colonel Mustard.
Colonel Mustard. Could you tell us why you think it's him?
We've always suspected that rogue over there on the left-hand side. I mean, he had so much that could have come out into the open. I mean, he had the scab already going with Reverend Green. The affair had come to light with Miss Scarlett. What else would
Well, he
have...
was also too cool when he came to announce that she was dead.
All right. I can now tell you that it was the billiard room, and it was the dagger, and it was Colonel Mustard.
Yes, I killed the obnoxious charlatan. Or was she a charlatan? The vicar and I were working our little pocket money scam with the help of a few hidden tape recorders and some high-tech imagination. Miss Terry threatened to expose us. But in the end, it was her revelations about Vivian and I that signed her own death warrant. I couldn't allow her to upset Elizabeth now, could I? I found the dagger quite by accident. It was just lying there, offering itself to me. And then I found Miss Terry, like the proverbial sacrificial lamb, sitting quietly behind the billiard room door. She was in a deep meditation. She didn't even hear the gunshot. It seemed as though she was in another world. And now, she is. Let's just call it divine intervention. You see, I managed to achieve what the vicar said he'd do. I rid the house of a demon.
So it was Colonel Mustard who murdered Miss Terry in the billiard room, and he used a dagger to do it. My apologies to the other 5. You are, of course, all cleared of suspicion and entirely free to go. Thank you for bearing with us during these painful inquiries. My congratulations as well, of course, to Annabelle and Dickie. You played a very good game and you tracked them down quite quickly. Also to Lorraine and Martin, who in fact got very close, and that would have been your guess too the next time, wouldn't it?
We were there.
Sure, absolutely. Round of applause, please, for both teams. So, my thanks to them, and I hope you've enjoyed playing detective at home tonight. If you'd like to win a murder mystery weekend, then stand by for details of our special telephone competition. That's coming up. And we'll be back next week to solve another murder at Arlington Grange. But for now, from all of us on Cluedo, it's a very good night to you. Good night.
The answer to last week's question was C. We know Reverend Green got back out of his car before finally leaving Arlington Grange because when he got into his car, he was wearing his raincoat. But when Mrs. White told him of the murder, he was no longer wearing the coat. And last week's winner is Anita Hamilton from Hove.